Hello, everyone. If you like what I'm doing here, please consider subscribing, liking, and commenting. It would really help the channel out quite a bit. Thank you very much.
Hello, this is Alan Prescott. Here we are poised on the verge of a weekend, and in case you're going to stay in the shelter of the city, rather than fight it out with the bugs, badminton, and bathing in the country, I have a few suggestions that may keep you from a case of the quiet creeps or feeling that no one loves you and you're all alone. The home-loving New Yorker will find plenty of company watching Alan Ladd and Geraldine Fitzgerald in the picture OSS over at the Gotham. It's a good picture, and poor Mr. Ladd gets knocked on his face so often. Now, I thought that after watching the picture, you'd be tired enough and go right home to bed, which is a good thing for all of us. Once again, the Virginian is stalking across the screen at Lowe's State. Joel McRae, Brian Donlevy, and Sonny Tufts are saying, "Smile when you say that, sir," this time. Speaking of smiling, or even getting a kind of a happy gurgle or two, you'll find that Miss Ann Corio is on the stage at Lowe's State. Don't you worry about Miss Corio either. She's been doing very well in the pictures, and now she'll take to the boards as an actress. If she can talk as well as she used to walk down a runway, Lynn Fontanne better look out. Oh, the Roxy screen is all covered with Technicolor and Fred McMurray. It's a picture called Smokey, oddly enough, with Ann Baxter and Burl Ives involved in the goings-on. Maybe you didn't get enough the other night, so if you want to, you can go over to the Republic Theater, at Broadway and 51st Street, and see the pictures of the Louis Kahn fight. If you paid $100 to see it, you probably are trying to forget it, but I'm going over to find out what happened. These pictures are also at the RKO theaters. After that announcement, this is probably the moment to say that if you want a real future, don't bet on fights. Before your next $5 tickles you in the pocket, stop in at the nearest Army recruiting station instead. They'll tell you there how you can get 4 years of college education at $64 a month by enlisting for 3 years. Believe me, it's a better idea than making a living on a horse's nose or depending on a prize fighter's legs. If you're looking for some light conversation for the weekend, I have a small supply on hand, and I'm willing to let it go to the nearest well-bent ear. While lounging about the Central Park Zoo the other afternoon, sharing a bag of peanuts with a pigeon I know by the name of Harry, I learned that if you wave a red flag in front of a bull, the bull won't care at all. It turns out, after all the flag waving that people have done to bulls, that the bull's colorblind. What makes him mad is that if you wave anything at him. Well, I can understand that, can't you? And as long as you might go to the country, you better know this, too. Hens don't lie down when they're laying eggs. They do all their work standing up. You know, just like the actors. I know you'll want to know that in case you meet a member of the Poultry Association and try to talk him out of a fry or two. Oh, here's another thing. A keeper at the zoo was kind enough to let me in on this. The wise old owl that everyone's always talking about isn't wise at all. And in better zoo circles, they consider the owl sort of a dope. Well, we might have known that anybody who stays out all night and sleeps all day is either very rich or very stupid. Oh, the camel's another one that's been faking all these years. You know how they're supposed to be able to go on without anything to drink for such a long time? Well, they aren't so much. If anybody asks you, you tell them that the giraffe can outdrink the camel any time. They can get along without water, too. I guess they have the neck for it. But anyway, you can keep them being thirsty all weekend if you bet on it. If you can't work the conversation around to animals this weekend, don't go away because I have a couple of other things here in the Did You Know department. You can kill people at cocktails with this. Just say, "Did you know that the oldest restaurant in New York is Ye Old Chop House?" It's spelled that way, too, I regret to say, and it served New Yorkers for the past 150 years in the Wall Street area. If that doesn't get you an extra olive, try this. Did you know that the reason Broadway curves so sharply at University Place is because a sentimental gentleman named Hendrik Bevort refused to have it cut through his property and ruin one of his favorite trees? I think that's sweet. Oh, should the conversation not be bent your way by that time, fix the nearest person with a firm look and say, "Did you know that the oldest hotel in New York is located at Chambers Street and West Broadway? It's the Cosmopolitan, and it was opened 96 years ago, and it's still going." "No, madam, I don't know whether you can get a room there or not." Now, wait a minute. Don't go away. I have more. This is about people, and you never know when you want to know about this sort of thing. You see, many people, especially those in show business, have had different vocations before their big break came and gave them an opportunity to use their proper talents. Here are a few examples of what some of the Hollywood personalities and some theater personalities did before they got into the big time. Zachary Scott once taught English in a girls' school in Texas. Frank Capra, the top-notch director, was the manager of a laundry. Howard Lindsay was once a collector of overdue accounts on an Atlantic City newspaper. Actress Helen Walker was a clerk in the Dog License Bureau of Boston City Hall. I was going to try to say something about her bark being worse than her, but I couldn't think of anything to say. Bill Ith sold skates, ice skates, I suppose, in the toy department at Macy's. Alan Hale was an osteopath, of all things, and Bill Goggin was a member of New York's finest. He used to cover the Broadway beat as a plainclothesman. John Lawrence was a taxidermist at the American Museum of Natural History. Bob Hope was a butcher boy. I bet he wishes he were today. Producer John C. Wilson was a successful Wall Streeter. Robert Montgomery was an engine wiper, whatever that is, for the New Haven Railroad. Harry Von Zell was a lightweight fighter. Not today, though. John Sutton ran a tea plantation in India. Mark Stevens was a sign painter, a bill collector, a crooner, a window dresser, an electric razor salesman, and a turntable boy at a Midwestern radio station before he became an actor. And Spencer Tracy, at the age of 9, was a lamplighter, getting 3 cents a lamp. So if you have any of these occupations I just mentioned, don't you feel depressed. Who knows, you may be the next Academy Award winner. Speaking of Spencer Tracy, he finally is fulfilling a promise that he made another actor some 20 years ago. Robert Armstrong is the actor. They met back in 1925 when Armstrong was starring in a Broadway play, Is That So? Tracy was just getting started. Well, kind of a close friendship developed, so the boys made a promise to do a show together at the first opportunity. Well, that opportunity finally came, even if it took 21 years to happen. They're both cast by MGM to do a picture called Sea of Grass. At this point, I think I'll rest for a few minutes and let the editors of Holiday magazine pass along a few suggestions for your vacation. So let's listen to this little transcribed story.
Everybody needs a holiday. For finer fun, at home or when you travel, read the beautiful new Curtis magazine, Holiday. The most precious hours in your life are those of your leisure time. And so, to help you make the most of those treasured hours, to broaden their enjoyment, the publishers of the Saturday Evening Post and the Ladies' Home Journal now bring you Holiday magazine, a glorious new publication lavishly illustrated in full color, solely dedicated to finer and more fun in your life. As an example of what this great new publication offers you, we bring you now a brief dramatic preview of an article from the July issue of Holiday magazine. What is your favorite athletic game? Tennis, bowling, badminton, or golf? Are you enjoying it as much as you really should? If not, take the advice of an all-time expert. See how Bobby Jones manages truly to enjoy a game of golf.
Jones missed the first green with his iron shot. He's got that bunker in front of him.
Why, look, Joe. He's going to try and run the ball up over that bunker and on the green.
Of course. This will be interesting to watch. Now.
Why, the ball, it went all the way across the green. Even I could make a shot like that.
Yeah. I guess you could, but look at Jones. Cool as a cucumber.
Yes, Bobby Jones has learned how to enjoy a game of golf. He gets more pleasure out of it today than ever before. And he'll tell you that getting pleasure out of the game is far more important than being an expert. The duffer, he claims, can be just as golf-happy as anybody can. He expresses his changed ideas in words like these.
Tournament golf is too much of a serious business to be considered a pleasure. I had 15 years of the excitement and glamour, and that's enough. I'd rather be one of those who quietly gets his fun out of the game.
I see, but most players, no matter how bad they are, have something of that tournament spirit. Now, how would you suggest they play it? More quietly?
Well, it's a matter of changing the mental attitude. You see, the average golfer is put at a psychological disadvantage right at the start when he's handed a scorecard with par printed beside every hole. This automatically presents him with a standard of perfection that can be met by less than 2% of those who play. And when he can't keep down to these figures, he gets discouraged. His spirits sag, and he doesn't enjoy his game.
All right, Joe. Remember what Bobby Jones said. Par for this hole is 4, but forget all about it. Don't try for par just because I made it on the last hole.
Of course I'll remember what Jones said. And you, suppose you just remember it's courteous to shut up when your opponent is preparing to drive.
Forget par and enjoy your good shot. That's the advice of Bobby Jones as played on our program by Eric Dressler. Every golfer should read the Jones Opinions, reported by Harry Robert in the intriguing article titled, Weep No More, You Duffers. Enjoy, too, the many other vivid features, the gorgeous color photography, the lively lore of recreation, travel, and play in the July issue of Beautiful New Holiday Magazine. Today, get your Holiday Magazine. 50 cents. Remember, everybody needs a holiday.
This is Alan Prescott again, back from my holiday. Now that we've discussed your vacation plans, let's get back to good old Gotham and see if we can pick up some more stuff in the trivia department. You know, traffic problems have always been a matter of public opinion since Hannibal crossed the Alps on an elephant, which I thought was awfully smart of him. In the first place, New York had traffic problems even in colonial times. Our Dutch ancestors passed a law back in 1652 prohibiting fast driving on Broadway. Fast driving? Just try and park on Broadway today. If it isn't a bus stop, it's a taxi stand. And by the way, do you know that the first taxi cabs were in existence in New York as far back as 1786? They were called hackney coaches, and they charged a small fortune to cart you uptown to 14th Street. But things started to move fast, and before you knew it, it was 1779, and the first elevated line was running along 6th Avenue. A few years later, in 1900 to be exact, ground was broken at City Hall to build the subway. Of course, this idea was fantastic at first. No New Yorker would ever travel on a hole in the ground, so they said in those days. Speaking of famous firsts, too, in transportation, did you know that the first ferry service in New York was operated in 1641? It was run by a Dutch farmer between New Amsterdam and Long Island. Of course, the ferry wasn't very big. It was cozy, though. In fact, it was a rowboat. Here's one of those stories which just goes to prove that you have to keep trying new things if you want to get along in this world. For example, we probably would still be cooking in an old-fashioned fireplace if someone hadn't tried to use a cook stove about 100 years ago. John Conant, a Vermont lad, invented the first cook stove about 127 years ago. But New York housewives wouldn't have anything to do with it. It wasn't until 31 years later that the cook stove came into its own. But it took a president to make it popular. When Millard Fillmore became president of the United States in 1850, he decided to modernize the White House. One of his innovations was a cooking stove in the kitchen. When the stove was installed, the cooks quit. They insisted that they weren't going to operate any firebox, and they didn't want to take a chance on having a mechanical gadget blow up in their pussas. It took a couple of experts 2 days in the White House kitchen to convince the cooks that the stove would work. After that, New York fell in line, and progress won another victory. Here's a little story which may interest our prospective brides. Did you know that back in Queen Elizabeth's time, brides used to have to dodge wedding cakes instead of eating them? It seems that the custom in those days was for the guests to heave a whole armful of cake at the bride as she crossed the threshold. The idea seemed to be that it was good luck and an assurance that she'd be well fed for the rest of her natural life. And she was, too, if she remembered to open her great big mouth at the right time. And now, I think it's just about time for me to close mine, and I'll be back tomorrow morning at 10 minutes of 8, again at 8:30 on the Alan and Jean Show. Meanwhile, this is yours truly, Alan Prescott, bidding you a very pleasant good evening.